Hey there, welcome to the Intentional Optimist Unconventional Leaders podcast guest speaker series. I'm Andrea Johnson, the Intentional Optimist, and I am here today with my guest, Mary Henderson. Welcome.
Hi, Andrea. I'm so excited to be here today.
We've still got leftover giggles from just getting started. And um, so y'all know this is going to be a fun one today. Mary is the guest for my podcast this week. If you've not heard it, it is episode 115, Doing Things with Ease and Grace. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Before we get started, Mary, I would love for you to introduce yourself, give them just a little bit of a background if they haven't had an opportunity to listen to your story yet, because y'all, it's a good story. So you need to hear it.
Thank you, Andrea. I won't hold everyone up and bore everyone, but essentially what I actually do is I'll start there. I am a personal branding and online business coach, and I help self-led, ambitious, heart-centered industry experts who have accumulated thousands and thousands of hours of knowledge, wisdom, and skill set. And I package that and I convert that into a brand and a business. And usually it's a coaching or a consulting business. And we wrap that around with lead generation strategies. We build digital assets, but also, Andrea, we also do a lot of work around embodiment, because, you can implement as much as you like, but if you don't become that, then I can give you every framework under the sun. You can implement until you're blue in the face, but if you don't embody it, it's just not going to work. So that's what I do.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you do. And as a coach myself, it's really easy to think that we just want to follow these strategies, and a lot of people are out there giving us strategies to follow, implementation strategies to do. This is how you find your avatar. This is how you discover your niche. This is what you do. But as a coach myself, even though I teach leadership or I coach in leadership and I coach in personal growth, there are things that are foundational building blocks that we have to start with. And for me, they're core values. And for you, it's kind of digging down below the surface to kind of who we really are and figuring out who really are. So as we were talking in the podcast interview, you kept talking about who you are in your natural state. And I said, let's go deep on that because that's not something that we talk about a lot. I think it's probably similar to what I talk about with core values because I talk about being the most pure, clarified part of who you are. But I'd love to get your spin on this, your take on it, and kind of just walk us through. And I'll just ping you with questions as they come.
That is a really beautiful start to this segment because I think that what we tend to do, Andrea, and I think this is just society that has brainwashed us to believe that we have to do and fix ourselves. And our whole life is made up of this notion of, I've got to fix myself because if I don't fix myself, I'm never going to be successful. I'm never going to find that relationship. And what I have found is that there's nothing to fix. So I want to start off there. Think of the way that I describe this is like, think of a circuit board. The circuit board can't be changed. It's the circuit board. There's a microchip in the circuit board. Think of that as your mind. And the circuit board is made up of lots of different components. Now, the components are always on the circuit board. You could enhance the components on the circuit board. You could move them around. But essentially, you can't fix it. A cable's a cable, period, right?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot recreate a cable. So, but you could change the cable from moving it from there to here to enhance the circuit board. So when we're in our natural state of being, what we're saying is that what can you do with ease and grace? What is it that you actually stand for? What lights you up? We have to look at all of these as attributes that make up the individual human being. I mean, God forbid if we came here to just go to school, get a job, get a mortgage, and then that's it. Like, let's think about this for a moment. I can't fathom that notion. To me, that's just so weird.
Pointless.
But yet, Andrea, this is what we've been told is the American and Australian dream. It's like, this is what you should be living for. I'm thinking there's something fundamentally wrong with this. So what happens is that we get these people that hit midlife crisis because life is not what we were told it was going to be. Hang on a minute. I didn't buy into this.
Right.
And then people lose their way. They either get depression or, something happens that allows us to lose our way. But here's what I discovered is that no one ever loses their soul purpose, ever, 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 ever. Because when you look at a soul purpose, it's not something in woo-woo land. It's not out there. It's actually in here. But all of that life experience that you've now accumulated, let's say you've been in a corporate job for 20 years, let's say you've been in the finance industry, for example, and quite frankly, you don't like that job. You never ever wanted to be an accountant, for example, but your parents wanted you to be an accountant, and your teachers told you that if you go to university and become an accountant, you'll future-proof your career, you'll always have an income. So don't take risks. That would be the safe path. But in your heart, you're thinking, I actually hate this. So 20 years go by, you're in this job that you absolutely hate, you're completely unfulfilled, you get to 45, 50, you hit midlife crisis, and it's like, what now? So what I want to say is that 20 years did not go to waste at all. In fact, it's actually a part of your natural state of being. You may not like finance or accounting, but there's aspects in that job that is very, very natural to you. You can do parts of that job with ease and grace. And we want to grab that essence of aspects of yourself that you can do and be with ease and grace. And we want to bring that into a pool or a plethora of deliciousness made up of your knowledge, made up of lots of wisdom, lots of skill set, and of course, that thing that lights you up. And when we pull that in a pool together, the next question is, oh my goodness, what can I do with this? What I do with this? Because that's currency. That's not a waste. That's currency. So when we get to package our genius zone and the things that we are naturally good at and gifted, then we start to then see what I actually feel like and look like in my natural state of being. And therein lies my purpose.
You know, I think as you describe it, I'm sitting here thinking, this sounds like my life. This sounds like me going through 25 years basically in higher education, administration and operations and research administration. And, for me, it was you need to be a nurse because that's job security. And I got halfway through college and said, nope. At least I said no at that point. But then I went with business, and it is easy, especially because for me, like when I hit 50, it's like, that's it.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, and I knew already that it wasn't what I wanted to do. But
Yes.
when you get there and it's that overwhelming feeling of, I have wasted 25 years and my best years, I threw them away. You hear people say this. I
Yes.
love the way you've put this. There are plenty of things that I do now because I learned how to do them in those 25 years. Half my coaching I learned how to do as a manager. And, even the administrative work that I do and all of the ways that I figure things out, I've learned how to do those. So I love the way that you describe that and talk about pulling those aspects out, right? I don't ever want to submit another National Institute of Health grant if I don't have to. But I
Correct.
know how to read contracts and I know how to read grant applications. And
Yes.
so there's things that I can do. And that's just a really good way to kind of help us see the experience that we have and how useful it can be in another way.
That's exactly right. And I think also when you look at it, and then when you can overlay that with currency and see that as actual true currency, then you start to shift your paradigm, because now you're not seeing that as a waste. You're seeing that as, what problem can this solve? That's how we see it. And then once you can see it like that, then you can ask yourself, all right, well, now I think I can solve a problem. I mean, it's the same with in my situation. I call the things that I can do with ease and grace my vocation. Go figure. So imagine waking up every day and just saying, oh, well, I could just do that really easy and that easy. And oh, that just happens to be my vocation. But that's a combination of, my past experience. It's a combination of my gifts, my talents, my values, what I stand for, learned knowledge that's become my life experience. So it's a combination of all of this, and then you convert that into a vocation. There's nothing more fulfilling. So nothing, and I mean nothing, goes to waste.
Hmm. It's just so easy to think that, though. I mean, is that the biggest hurdle that people have when you start working with them, is that they think that they've wasted these years?
I think that the people that I work with don't necessarily see that they've wasted all those years. What they see is, how do I convert the last 25 years of all my life experience, and the thing that's driving me inside, like my
Mm,
soul is wanting more. I just don't know what it is. So
mm,
when we can unpack that, it's just like this flower just suddenly blooms.
yeah.
You know, we can then organize the information in a way that makes sense to a potential client. So what problem can I solve that will either enhance excuse me, somebody's life or somebody's business, or reduce pain in somebody's life or somebody's business?
Mm,
And once we understand that, then we have a trajectory that we can start to create, and it becomes easy, and it becomes a part of us, which is what I was saying before. We have to embody that version of us,
mhm,
because it is you. It is you. So it's not like you're out there and this currency is over here. It is you. So we have to go back almost like birth, and self-realize that, hang on a minute, all of this that I've packaged is me. It's
mm,
all wisdom and learned experience that I have accumulated over years. So why am I looking for something when it's already in front of my eyes, and has been for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years? So that's why I keep saying that nothing goes to waste, because once you see it like this, then you can start to realize that it is your natural state.
So what are the first steps?
I think the first steps are really understanding, what you have accumulated the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, from a knowledge standpoint, a skills standpoint, your abilities, your even the things that you didn't pursue as a child. So there would have been things from a child standpoint that you really wanted to do that you never pursued. For me, it was singing. Like, my voice is
Yeah.
professionally trained, for 15 years. And it's like, well, what do I do with it now? Well, the thing is that I am doing something with it now, because my gift is my voice. The talent was singing. I don't have to pursue that talent, but I can never give up the gift, right? So the
Mm,
gift must be used every day in order for me to light up, which is why I do a lot of these interviews, because that
mhm,
is my natural state. So I have to use that. It's been gifted to me. I'm not going to just leave it lying dormant. It has to wake up. So when we start to unpack all of those attributes, Andrea, including our values, our core values,
mhm,
the skills that we've accumulated, our abilities, um, uh, our learned knowledge, our wisdom, all of this needs to be unpacked. And we have to almost see it like a very, very big Excel spreadsheet, and start to recognize patterns in that, and then start to look at, well, what do I love when I look at this? What is it that what lights me up? And just start highlighting areas that start to really light you up. And then
mm,
you'll start seeing patterns. Of course, it's a little bit more complicated than that. I'm just giving a very high overview.
mm,
But the key is to get it out of you. That's the
yeah,
key. That's step number one. It has to come out from here, out onto something, which is why I say Excel spreadsheet,
yeah,
because you can see it, right? I
yeah,
know it's linear, but it works, right? Because
yeah.
most of it is linear. So the brain will be very satisfied with that, because it can see it. So we've got to be able to just, unpack and then repackage and convert that into something that we can do something with.
Okay. So, and that's something that I did as well, is I put all of it, like my intentional optimism, all those tenets, I put them in a big Excel spreadsheet. And my husband was like, what on earth is all of this? I'm like,
Yeah.
that was all in here. And now
Exactly.
it's out. It's out. It feels so much better now that it's out. And now I can actually use it to help people, right? So
Yes, yes, yes.
the same kind of thing. Okay. So what are the biggest things that people should know when they're starting to highlight and they're pulling things together? How can they look at that and then do something with it? I mean, what if they don't really see a pattern? What is the best way to look for a pattern?
I think that the thing, I always reverse engineer everything. Okay. So I
Okay.
never start with like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I always start with, okay, this is the problem I know I can solve. And even if it's boring, it doesn't matter. Just we've got to start with something. There has to be an anchor somewhere because we can build on that anchor. So the end goal is this is the problem I know how to solve. And then we need to work backward from that. So, okay, so how would I solve that problem? What can I incorporate as part of that journey, to enhance that experience of working with me? The thing with creating a solution, if you will, based on your internal currency is that a lot of people look at it from the standpoint of I have to find a niche and then I'm going to wrap my solution around that one niche. And I want to say that that is the worst thing to do because your solution should not be wrapped around a niche. Your solution should be able to help anyone that needs that problem solved, regardless of the niche. You see the
Okay.
difference?
Yeah.
So the thing is that I don't want to box myself in one little niche. I want to be able to help anyone and everyone that needs this problem solved. I don't really care what niche you're in. It means nothing to me. And if we can, because that then becomes expansive, then you're
Sure.
not limited, then you're way more expansive because you're focused on the solution. You're not focused on I've got to fit this circle in this square and I'm going to try everything, and if it doesn't work then I'll rinse and repeat and redo it all over again. We don't, and this is what I see a lot of people start at this niche. Oh, it doesn't work, I'll go to this niche. It doesn't work, I'll go to this niche. And I stay away from that. I'm saying stay away from niches, focus on the problem you can solve, and that somebody out there, a business or a human, needs that problem solved. And that is the best way to start this process.
So and this is my issue, is that it's taken me a long time to figure out which problem I solve.
That's difficult. Yes. It's a very difficult process, Andrea. And this is the problem that every person I work with has when I come to me. It's the biggest problem. And also the other thing is that some people come to me and they're like, "Fix, this is what I want to do. This is the problem I know I can solve. These are the people that I can help." And then when I look at that the data that I'm collecting in our unpacking session, I look at that data and I'm thinking, what they want to do and what this spreadsheet is showing me is a complete disconnect.
Mm,
And then I'll just give you an example. I had a client of mine, and she comes from a finance background, very, very, very smart, amazing woman. But she's just like the networking queen, like you have never seen in your life. She's just like next level. And so as we're unpacking, her attributes and all of the things that she can do with ease and grace, suddenly I start to see this amazing pattern emerge. And I'm saying to her, I don't think the finance industry that you've been in has given you the ability to actually create a very systemized approach to the way that you network. Like, because your networking is very successful, but you're actually very systematic. It's very strategic and deliberate. You don't just show up and hope for the best. Like, you actually have a system in place. And, she loves working with women. And so I said, what we're going to do is we're going to use those attributes from your background in finance and various other attributes. But really, your solution is around helping women stand out, to be seen, be heard, stand out in a networking, so communication, how to use their voice. And so we created a whole solution around that. And she said, Mary, I never would have thought of that. But I said, here's the evidence. I'm not even making it up. Like I can actually show you that this is the evidence. And so it made sense. But what happened, Andrea, is that she lit up. She was just
mm.
like in her element. It's like, oh my God, I never would have thought of this. But yes, yes, yes. So what sometimes we think we should be doing is absolutely not what we should be doing.
So for those of us who, because you can't help, I mean, you can't personally coach every single woman out there, right? I mean, I'm sure that would be a wonderful dream. But for those of us who can't necessarily work with you just because of time or money or whatever, what are some things that we can look at in those data sets that help us? Because the data never lies, right? I mean, that's just the data never lies. So
Never.
what are the things that we can look at to help us? Because I love the example. I was going to ask you for one. So that was a great one, because it really wasn't what we were expecting, right? When
Yes.
and for me, it being in grant administration and operations, being a coach who basically empowers women and offers freedom is not necessarily what people would expect either, unless
Yes.
you knew me, and then it wouldn't be a big surprise.
Yes. 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 I think, Andrea, and I think let's simplify this
Yes.
because there's no point in overcomplicating because there's too many moving parts, and it does require a very systemized approach. But to simplify, to get people started, I think the first step is to understand. And I always start here, and I think you and I discussed this in our podcast interview, is that we must define who we are first and foremost as a brand. I think this is very important, Andrea. And I'm good. I want to elaborate on this if I may.
Yeah.
The reason why it's important is because it forms a foundation. And what it does, it actually allows us to self-realize how we want the outside world to perceive us as a brand. So in your brand falls, your value system, what it is that you stand for. Of course, your branding architecture is the outcome of all of this, but these moving parts are critical because your messaging lives in that part of your who you are. So the branding is where messaging lives. Messaging doesn't live in lead generation. It lives in your brand. And so, and also as part of that, this is why it's very important to understand what problem I can solve, because that also falls into your branding aspect of your business. It's not outside of that, it's inside of that, as is the client that you want to serve. So all of these elements actually fall in branding. It doesn't fall in sales or lead generation, not at all. It all falls in this branding little bubble. And because all of those elements that I'm talking about, they need to be consistent and congruent with one another.
Yeah.
And key word here is congruent, because if my messaging is not congruent with my solution, then there's a bit of a disconnect, isn't it? Like if I'm on Facebook and I'm starting to post things around weight loss, but I'm a personal branding coach, you're going to be confused. You're going to say, well, hang on a minute. Why are you talking about weight loss, in all your posts when really you're a personal, I'm confused. So
Yeah.
we should stop confusing our audience and start showing up, and embodying who we are, so people can take notice of us, so that we can be seen as the go-to expert bit by bit. And content is a great way to do that. So when we're unpacking, the problem that we can solve and trying to consolidate it, it goes back to what I said before. It's understanding what skills do I have? What abilities do I have? What is my learned knowledge that now looks like wisdom? What journey can I take people through? And the reason we have to do that, Andrea, and this is very important, what I'm about to say, is if we can't transform a client step by step, so these are micro transformations along the way, we're just going to blend in like every other coach. We are now moving into what I call transformational leadership. And forget coaching and consulting. That's just a label that, in my opinion, will just become, it won't phase out. But those people, excuse me, that are starting out will, label themselves coach or consultant. The ones that really, really can solve problems and transform people, they will be the transformational leaders that will command their demand and be able to charge premium pricing. Why? Because the transformation is what people want. Right. And if your solution cannot transform, you're just going to be like everybody else. And as we move into 2023, let me just remind all of us that our competition has now 100x, not 10x, 100x, because now you've got 20-year-olds that are starting their coaching businesses. They're inhibitions are all the way down here. They've got nothing to lose. And Miss 50-year-old up here, whose inhibitions are sky high because she's got responsibilities and mortgages, etc., is not going to take the risk like the 20-year-old, but really inside herself wants to be the coach and consultant. Well, you see, this is why you have to be strategic and deliberate and
Mm,
do systematically, so that when you do get out in public, that you've got the right messaging, that you show up consistent and congruent with who you are,
mm.
what you do, who you can serve, what you can promise.
Yeah, that's so you say that transformation is what people want. That's
Yes,
the solution you're looking to solve. That's the solution you're looking for. And,
that's right.
for the longest time, people say, "Well, what transformation do you offer?" I'm like, "I don't know." Until it dawned on me that every single thing I do is offering freedom. I offer freedom to my clients. If it's from weight loss, from thoughts, from expectations, from a job, from I don't know, lack of education, whatever it is, everything I do is geared towards offering freedom. And
Yes,
I do that in some more specific ways. But when I work one on one with a client,
yes,
it's all about getting in here and offering freedom. And when we have the freedom to be our natural selves, to actually tap into those things and understand them and believe them about ourselves and recognize the skills that we have. And I love the way you say the learned knowledge that now looks like wisdom. Gosh, that is so important.
uh-huh.
And, when I work with women that are similar in age and they say to me, "Well, I don't even have a college degree." I'm like, "I don't care. The world doesn't actually care. You have experience that nobody
Yes,
else has. If
correct.
you raised a kid at all,
Yes,
even
yeah,
if you
that's
feel like you didn't do a good job."
thing is, Andrea, also, I think one more thing I want to just lay on top of this, and this is very important, has been very important for me, something that I bring into my coaching as well. And I know that you do as well. And that is that, an understanding of what spirituality means to us, and that connection to a much higher
Yeah.
intelligence. Because,
Yeah.
because for me, I don't think that I could survive in my day had I not established that relationship with my creator, like
Yeah.
at such a deep, 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 profound level. And it doesn't have to be religious, but for me, there is a spiritual connection with my creator. And it's so sacred and so important to me, because therein lies also a lot of truth. And also where we have the ability to transcend all of that noise
Right.
into pure love. But we have to go there. And I think a lot of people are really afraid to go there, because we've bought into this ideology that we have to fix ourselves all the time. Go and buy a book and fix yourself. Go and see a therapist to fix yourself. When in actual fact, there's nothing to fix when you have that deep connection with our creator, who's waiting patiently for us to say, I need help. And that for me has just been a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, it's I share the same idea there, and the same. We come from the same
Yes,
position, and I tell people you were created on purpose for a purpose, and when if you think, no matter how you think of creation, you are innately unique and innately you. And when you share who you are, the rest of us benefit. And when you share exactly how God made you, or whomever you believe
yes,
made you, when you share what that is, then you actually add into the collective good of everybody else and everything that we're doing. And I talk about how I'm designed a certain way and I can't get away from that design. And I'm a disc consultant, so I talk about being wired to communicate certain ways, and I geek out on all these other personality type things. But when we understand those things about ourselves and we accept them instead of fighting against them, I used to
yeah,
think that, oh, I'm half this and half that. And it's always, no, I get to see the big picture and do the details.
that's
That's
right.
a superpower when you can accept who you are and accept that it's not just about what happens here. It's a much bigger picture. Then you're right. It really does make a difference. It really matters.
Massive. It really does matter. It really does. And I say that with so much emphasis. It does matter,
Yeah.
because it just takes your life experience on a whole new world.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I was saying to my clients last night in our call, like, don't listen to me. You know, a lot of this spiritual talk is now proven in a science laboratory. Like,
Oh,
so
yeah.
we know that there is intelligence. So why are we making it out as woo woo when it never was woo woo to begin with? It's fact, because the people that are tapping into that intelligence are experiencing this amazing life experience and just this inner knowing that's so expansive. I
Mm.
could never ever have learned what I've learned had I not had that tapped into that, that higher power.
Yeah, and when we talk about being, wholly ourselves and full, part of that is being spiritual. We are not one-dimensional at all, and,
Correct.
I had a conversation with a client where she said, "Well, this it's not logical for me to say that."
I
Why
know.
why does logic have anything to do with it? And what does that have to do with anything? And I'm like, we're all, because I work with a lot of scientists, and
Yes.
so it makes sense that she would say, well, it needs to follow this logical flow. It's like, well, that's great. That's fine. What happens when it doesn't, right? That's how we make new discoveries. When
Yes.
things don't follow a logical flow, that's how we make new and novel discoveries. You're getting a new and novel discovery about you. And this is
100%.
what's important.
100.
Um, so how do we wrap this up? How do we land this plane? And what is the one thing that you want to leave everybody with today as they head into, on this side of the world, into our evening, and on your side of the world into the next day? You're already in tomorrow.
I am. I I always leave my interviews, and I always leave with this message. Your knowledge, your skill set is your wisdom, and wisdom has a currency that nobody can ever take away from you. It cannot be stolen ever, ever, ever. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Because to self realize and self actualize our full potential, we already have what we have. All we need is we need the courage. We need to tap into our intelligence that already lives in our brain. We need to open up our soul to feel at a much deeper level. And most importantly, we need to have a co creation relationship with something much bigger than us. And if we can merge those elements together, I think that's a recipe for beautiful success.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I think that's beautiful. And, just even saying wisdom is currency. What are you going to do with it? Right. It's like you have access to cash. you know, I mean,
Yeah,
you
you're
have
sitting on
it.
a gold mine,
Say that
literally.
again. It's a literal gold mine.
You're
Yeah.
literally sitting on a gold mine,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah, and for some reason we don't share, right? And we've been told that we're supposed to stay small and quiet and unobtrusive.
Yes,
And it's like,
yes,
no, let's break it out. You got the stuff to share. Let's share it. Um,
absolutely.
so for those of you who have not yet listened to episode 115, Doing Things with Ease and Grace, this is who you will listen to, and you'll get her story. You will get Mary's story of how she became the leader that she is, how she got into the work that she's doing, and a little bit more of kind of the passion that you heard here today. As always, Mary, it is a blast talking to you. And we didn't laugh quite as much as we did off camera, but we both had our coffee. Mine's at the end of the day. Yours is at the beginning of the day.
That's right.
But I am so grateful to have you here. And I look forward to learning from you, continuing to learn from you and work with you in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you.
Y'all have a nice day.